All right, today we have a 2003 Ford Ranger. What we're going to be doing is replacing the rear brake pads, or rear brake shoes technically. So we haven't actually inspected them yet. The reason the customer wanted them replaced is because they are making some noise. They're making a lot of noise actually whenever you stop. So even if they're not thin, it sounds like they might have got damaged by water or something. But we'll get in there and we'll go ahead and replace them. They've never been changed. With 100,000 miles, it's not a bad idea. So what we'll do, go ahead and get it up in the air and get the rear wheels off and take a look at what we got in there. Okay, so we got the truck up in the air and the wheel off. Go ahead and just pull the brake drum off. And at first glance, the shoes aren't too thin. The front ones are a little worn, but again, they're really old and they are making a lot of noise. So we're just gonna go ahead and put some new ones on there. Looks like the wheel cylinders are not leaking, so good there. Also the axle seal is nice and dry. So really all it needs is some new brake shoes. So what we're going to do to start, now the brakes, drum brakes is one of the more tricky things on a auto repair. One very important trick to remember is always do only one side at a time completely. Do it start to finish, one side, keep the other side assembled. The reason for that is a couple of reasons. One, so you have the other side as a reference in case you forget where something went. You can always go look at the other side to see how it goes back together. The other reason is you do not want to mix up components. Say for some reason you get a pile of stuff and it all ends up in the same pile from both sides. It can be very hard determining which side the hardware belonged on. All right, so what I'm going to do to start is pop off these springs. Now you want to be very careful. If you have them, wear safety glasses at this point, because these springs, when they come off, they can go flying if you're not real careful. So what I'll do is just pop this. I don't know if you see what I'm doing. I'm just getting the screwdriver behind here, and I'm going to pry up, and it will kind of push like so. And you'll see here that spring is loose now. Now as I take components off, I'm going to place them down on this piece of cardboard that I have set up to kind of have a layout of where everything was, so that when we go to put it back together, we'll know right where it came from. So that is going to be the right side stuff, and then so I'll have stuff here and here, and I'll just know where it all came from. So now I'll do the same thing with this other spring. Kind of pop it out a little bit first. You just kind of muscle them out of there. And then that will go kind of like so. And then I have, it's kind of hard to see, but there's one spring right in here. Kind of have to, oops. All right, well, we'll leave that one for the time being. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect, pop off our e-brake adjuster, or parking brake adjuster, which this piece, you can see, just slides over. So what I'm going to do is just pry on this enough, and it will just pop out of here at the risk of it going flying. Let's see if we can do this gently. There it goes. Now I'll pull this out, and the other half is kind of stuck up in there still. We'll get that in a second. And I'm going to lay this down in the same direction it came out. I'm going to go ahead and pop off our retaining spring here now. You can use a pair of pliers. I actually have this little specialty tool which you can pick up at any tool supplier. Just makes this little job easier. But like I say, you can use regular pliers for it too. Just takes a little more of a fight. What you do is here, I'll show you this once it's off. I'll show you how it works. You push in on it and then turn it at the same time. And eventually it'll pop off. Set that here for a second. Now you can see our brake shoe coming off. We'll slide it off the spring. Pieces are flying. Where'd that go? Oh, there it is. I'm going to undo this retaining clip. And pull that all off as one assembly here. We'll transfer all that over here in a minute. So, all right, I'm just going to blast it with air and get most of this dust out of here. Now, if you do something like this, avoid breathing the brake dust. It's not the best for you. Luckily, they don't use asbestos in brake shoes anymore, so there's no asbestos in there. But it's still not really good for you. So I'm just going to stand back and hit it with some air and try to blast it out and clean it up a little bit. Now I'm going to hit it with some brake clean just to get any residual stuff off of there. All right, now our next step, and this is pretty important to prevent noise. What I'm going to do is lubricate these pads. See these little pads with the dimples in them? What those are, that's where the brake shoe sits up against here and it actually rubs against that. That should be lubricated because that's where the brake pad does all of its movement, is right against that point. So you want to use some kind of brake lubricant specifically for brakes. You don't want to put just a standard petroleum grease on there. So what I'm going to do is just go around and put a dab of that on each of these pads here. And lastly, just going to put a little bit on the top up here on this round piece where the top of the shoe sits. Now every contact point will be lubricated between the backing plate and the brake shoe itself. All right, so here's our new brake shoes that we got from Auto Parts Direct to You. These are side specific. So what we need to do is match up the brake shoes with the old ones. You will see that on the old one, on this back shoe, it's got this little nub down here, and that's what's holding all that hardware that we still have to transfer. So what we do is match up. You can see here, this new one, it also has that nub. If you were to try to match up this one that has the nub, it's on the wrong side. So you know this is the other side. And then for the front shoe, it's actually not going to matter. It's the same either way. So just make sure it matches and everything lines up like that, and we're good. All right, so now what we need to do is transfer this little bundle of stuff from one brake shoe to the other. First thing I'm going to do is pop off this spring here. Actually, it wasn't even really on there, just loose. And then very paying attentionly, that's not a word, but just going to set that there and transfer this spring like that. This thing's still stuck on here. This I can put on later. That's the other part of the e-brake adjuster, which we'll deal with that later. And then this part went on just like so. And that's where the spring oh wait, oh no, how did this go? There we go. I think. We go double check the other side to make sure. It's pretty bad I forget like 2 seconds later. Yeah, okay. Okay. Now this piece you didn't really see because it popped off when everything kind of fell apart, but it sits right up here like this. And what happens, this piece clips on here, this little cable actually goes around this thing, and then this hooks onto that top peg on the top of that backing plate. And that's actually to adjust the auto tensioner. You'll see when it gets pulled on, it pulls this little lever here. And then that's what turns this thing and keeps the, it's a big complicated mess, but that's how it works. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the this back shoe back on. This e-brake lever just kind of slides in that hole there, and this whole assembly goes up just like so. Now before I put any other springs on, I'm going to put that retaining, this guy on here, which I never did show you how it works. See that slot in there? What you do when you press it in, you relieve the tension and you turn it until this flat shaped corner of this clip lines up with that slot, and then it just pops off. So that's all you're really doing on that. And you do the reverse to get it back on. There. I'm going to go ahead and put our back shoe on too. All right, so there you can see the general setup of how our new shoes are going to sit. So our next step, I guess, will be, I'm going to go ahead and hook on. That sits like that. This goes over like so. And this is going to sit inside this cable. And this is the part that you need about 5 pairs of hands to do this efficiently. Otherwise you can just kind of do like I do and get angry at it. and hope that everything stays together. Now what actually holds this little thing that's kind of balanced in there in place is the spring. When it's sitting in there like that, the spring just kind of squishes up against it and holds it in place. That one actually goes on the outside though, so it's probably all going to fall apart when I go to do this, but I'm going to start by putting the spring onto this side here. You know what? Scratch that. This is what makes doing drum brakes hard on video, because going back and forth. All right, so before I put that front spring on, I'm going to put our the spacing bar in there. What this does, this works with the e-brake to help apply tension when you pull the e-brake lever. And it slides over this half of the brake shoe. So on this side, you can see this little notch right here is where our e-brake spacing bar is going to sit. It's going to be kind of hard for you to see it, but I'll try. What you do is you got to push the shoe back up in place with it there. There it goes. So it goes like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is pop in this spring here. And again, if you have them, and I'm being a bad example here, you should be wearing safety glasses for this part, because these springs can come off and go flying. And if I had them on me, I would be wearing them for certain, but they haven't been delivered yet. They're actually on their way. So anyway, that didn't work. Sometimes it takes a couple tries. They actually make a special tool for this that makes this easier. Or you can try doing like I'm doing and balancing a flathead on the end of this thing. And that's not working very well. There it goes. And once you get it in place, you want to make sure everything's still lined up. And this funny thing back here, there it goes. So there she goes. All right. So now we can go ahead and line back up our other shoe, and our spacer popped out. At the same time, we have to make sure this cable goes around this thing here, and that sits in the hole like that. So now, when you're sure that you have everything all lined up here, you go ahead and pop our spring back on this side. Get that cable in place. Spring. Should be wearing safety glasses, and here goes nothing. There we go. All right, so you want to double check that this pulley thing is in its hole properly. That is very important to make sure that the self-adjuster works properly. And at this point, we can go ahead and hook this back up. This is the other end of the cable for that I was working with. And where that goes, it clips onto the bottom of this thing. And you'll see as I go, as long as it doesn't all fall apart. There we go. You see there, now that's clipped on, and our cable has tension, and it's around our pulley, and that all looks good. Next I need to put this spring on. It sits in this hole here, and this hole over here is the other end. And I actually have to tuck it behind the cable to get it through. So what we're going to do is start this end just kind of clips on like so, and then kind of feed it behind. And now I'm going to completely block the shot probably. And then this piece goes in that hole right there. One more thing I'm going to do here. This is our e-brake self-adjuster. I'm just going to go to the side and clean it up real good and lubricate it. You want to put some lubricant on the inside here, and then on this side too where it threads, just so it slides really freely. So I'm going to go do that real quick and I'll be right back. All right, so this is our e-brake self-adjuster. The way it works, this little piece right here that attaches to the cable, that sits right up against this gear. It's like ratcheting thing. And when the brakes get too loose, it'll actually tug on this thing just enough to click it up a notch. And every time the brakes get a little bit looser, they click up, and it just self-adjusts by doing that. Because as that clicks, what it does is it turns this thing, which then extends, and it pushes out the bottom of the brake shoes. So for this to work properly, you need this end and these threads to be well lubricated. If they're not, this thing can get seized up and your brakes won't auto adjust and you'll end up with a really soft pedal. So anyway, the way this goes on, we'll just slide up the one end into there. And now this part can get a little tricky. We're going to try never mind, I spoke too soon. E-brake adjuster is in there. And now we only have one thing left to do. Well, two really. I'm just going to clean out the brake dust in this drum here. Now our last step that we have to do is to adjust the tensioner. So what we'll do is test fit with the brake drum. And you can see those brakes are way too loose. This thing is supposed to just kind of fit snugly on there. But the shoes aren't even touching. So to adjust it, what you do, first you have to pull away this lever. You'll see when I pull it away, it stops touching this ratchet mechanism. And then you just turn it. Let's see, in this case, I'm turning it. Actually, I don't even have to turn it, pull it away. You can see as I turn it, this gap expands here, which will then bring the brake shoes out. So what you do is just do a little bit at a time. Not even close yet. And just keep trying as you go. When you put the drum on there, just kind of hit it around a little bit and that'll make sure it centers. And I went too far. So if you go too far, this is when you have to pull on this lever to release it from stopping it from going back in. So then you just pull on that lever and turn it the other way. All right, so almost there. Maybe one or two more clicks, or three. One more, two more, there. So you just keep going until finally when the brake drum sits on there, there's a little bit of friction. There we go. There's no way you're gonna be able to see that on the video, but as I turn it, I can feel just barely the brake shoes are touching, which is right where it should be. You know, they're not, still comes off just fine. They're not overly tight or anything, but they're just barely touching up against it. So at that point, you're done. So now we'll go ahead and show you the other side. Okay, so now we're just gonna go ahead and do the exact same procedure on this side that we did on the other side. Everything is identical. The only thing is a couple of the parts are made backwards, but they're exactly the same pretty much. I mean, so just follow the same steps that you did on the other side and you'll be fine. Went ahead and got this side done. It went together just like the other side. I did a little slightly different order, but whatever, it's all the same. Same procedure and everything. So all we got to do is put the wheels on and we'll be good to go. Again, thanks for watching. Remember, keep us in mind next time you need some auto parts at Auto Parts Direct to You. Remember to subscribe to us here on YouTube. We're always trying to put out new videos. Hopefully you'll learn something from them. Check us out at Facebook, facebook.com/apdty, and follow us on Google+. So all right, thanks for watching. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.